Hello and welcome back to the Rich Fritzky Show. And yes, here I go again into the fray. Oh, what a world. Oh, what a country, and oh, good Lord. The unmitigated madness that runs amok and fouls and stains our body politic, our land, our country. The first debate, and as expected, our president assaulted, never once shut the hell up, and displayed a lack of respect for anyone or anything, shockingly, repeatedly refusing to condemn white supremacism. And oh yes, he told his Proud Boys to stand by. There was only one adult on the stage, Joe Biden, and he did the best possible, given the petulant, childish, ignorant behavior of our president. So today, my own assault upon the key misses of his just this past week alone, followed by a brief commentary as to the immediate promise of a Joe Biden presidency. First, the never-before-heard in America and repeated refusal of a sitting president to assure a peaceful transfer of power. And then the absurd news that high-level agents of the president actually went so far as to reach out to the leadership of Republican-held state legislatures where they have control to suggest that even if Biden wins their states, why not consider refusing to certify his electors and replacing them with electors, of course, loyal to the president, thus rejecting the voice of their own people, never before voiced or considered, and I trust and pray dead on arrival, as they were being asked by their president to commit fraud, signaling a war on democracy itself. And so too, and of course, his continued mythological assault on mail-in ballots, a lie that he has repeatedly signaled daily for more than 3 straight months, in the certain belief that if he says it often enough, the lie alone will stand. Like a petulant child myself, I hear that old stunted ditty, "Liar, liar, pants on fire." Next on the hit parade for him was the mad rush to load the court with a 6-3 conservative majority, threatening Roe v. Wade, voting rights, health care, marriage equality, and ever so much more. There is also the Senate Republicans, who so loudly insisted 4 years ago that in an election year, the people alone must get to determine who selects. Virtually nobody gets it. He said that about COVID-19 at a rally in Ohio. Your president said that as we rapidly approach the 210,000 dead mark, averaging nearly 1,000 deaths per day in the U.S., and advancing again, and still he said that, adding only before it that only the old get it, and only because they have heart disease or other health problems. So what, he was suggesting. That's only to be expected. Beyond them, virtually nobody. Yet we are the world's COVID-19 poster child, the world's worst. 4% of its population with nearly 23% of its stats. But he gives himself an A+ for a response to a problem that he well knew about and yet first called a hoax, to a problem that first devastated blue states, Democratic states. So why even implement a plan? His administration said, let's just let them take the hit and suffer. A political and not a presidential, and what has proven to be a most devastating calculation made by the president of the red states alone. On the very night we lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg, he did something that should have dominated a news cycle, but it didn't, because her story was the only story that mattered that day. And yet he actually talked eugenics and the greater gene pool of the strong all-white crowd before him in northern Minnesota. Not to exaggerate, but this shit was right out of Hitler's playbook. And no, he didn't need to note that, nor to identify who it was who had the lesser genes. It was understood. The very theory that led to the Holocaust and the extermination of the Jews. The Trump-Barr declaration announcing the designation of our nation's first anarchist cities was a real barn burner. Oh yes, they are planning the overthrow of the country in Portland, Chicago, and New York City, who are facing the empty threat of having all federal aid withheld. But it is Congress that so designates, and neither of those blowhards. In truth, the real anarchist, the one actually doing the threatening, is the president himself. For it is he who incites and repeatedly invites supremacists and militants to go ye therefore and tame these incessant Black Lives Matter protesters. And oh yes, the Patriotic Education Initiative, another authoritarian rulebook game. Don't dwell upon your nation's egregious faults and stains. Slavery, the Native American story, the know-nothing anti-immigration and forever racial contempt and bigotry story, the long-suffering story of a woman's fight for equal rights, and all of our misguided and immoral wars. Yes, Trump wants a whitewash reincarnation of history, i.e., teach the illusions and the myths alone. And finally, taxes. The New York Times doesn't print what it doesn't have. So when they print that he paid nothing in 11 of 18 years, paid only $750 in his first 2 years as president, got a $72 million plus tax refund that remains under audit for a host of reasons, and has repeatedly lied to the American people as to the value of his kingdom and his success. They have it. They have the evidence, his tax returns, and they wouldn't write that Ivanka, then officer of the company, received excessive consultation payments that were then fraudulently written off as a business expense. They've got the $70,000 write-off for hair and the questionable write-offs for personal residences and a private plane, etc., that are, in fact, not deductible as normal business expenses. What they haven't got, however, is what the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York City has, as to the games played with the valuation of properties, either being devalued or overvalued in order to lower prospective tax impact. Is it any wonder that he's desperate to remain in office where he is untouchable? For he is just destined to pay the piper here, both financially and very possibly criminally. You just can't make all of this stuff up. All this, the proud legacy of Donald Trump, our divider and liar and destroyer in chief. So why Joe Biden? 1, he will calm the waters and the vitriol. 2, he will restore dignity and honor to our White House. 3, he will end the daily parade of outright lies. 4, well known around the world, he will quickly move to re-establish positive relations with our legitimately disgruntled allies, and for that matter, with all nations. 5, he will replace a foreign policy of America first with one that rightfully heralds, we are all in it together. 6, he will quickly restore our leadership role in the Paris Climate Accord. 7, he will quickly move to mobilize America to invest mightily in the green fight to save a dying earth. 8, he will reverse Trumpian tax policy and insist that the richest and the well-to-do again pay their fair share. 9. He will take concrete action on police reform and move expeditiously to comprehensively address and best act upon the legitimate concerns of Black Lives Matter and all other entities invested in the fight for social justice. 10. With the latest and best information available from medical and scientific leaders, he will move on to quickly forge a definitive plan, a comprehensive national strategy, rather than the mere recommendations that have never been fully enforced. He will work in cooperation with all who are invested in developing a vaccine, and when anyone is proven to work and to do so safely, it will then be freely distributed to all. You know, there was a time when I faced a relentless assault of medical battles, when I had repeated confrontations with life's jumping off place and the cliff's edge, when the thought of being 70 was beyond my seeing, and yet the good Lord and my Maggie and all the great loves in my life determined to keep me around. And while I harbor no fear of going home to God, onto that realm beyond my seeing, my understanding, nor even my imagining, I am steeled and blessed with a relentless faith. And yet I am still thinking, still writing, still teaching, still learning, still falling in love with my students. And oh yes, as to the political mind that shapes so many of my podcasts like this, it was forged in my youth, forged when I was in school, forged as an activist and a political operative, forged volunteering for Bobby Kennedy in '68 and for Governor Richard Hughes, and then an array of anti-Vietnam campaigns for Congress. Nick Lamont, Luke Caden, Dan Gaby, to name but a few. And then stints with Mayor Gibson of Newark and Kevin Hagan White of Boston. And then Senator Frank Church of Idaho for president, and New Jersey Senator Bill Bradley multiple times, and many others, and finally twice for that soaring, wonderful voice of Bernie Sanders. I have tried to do justice to all in my life, but I never did. And yet the work and the love and the course corrections are in my ready hand, in my mind. It is for me to do better still, to put the other first, to love more fiercely. As to our country, our struggle today, the intolerable conditions that pervade our politics and our governance, our advance as a people, it is so hard for me, given the all of my life, to face the fact that after 50 years of articles and editorials and fights for the right and engagement, that it has never, ever been worse than it is right now. And that this shit show that plagues us that we saw on a stage in Cleveland, that this is the legacy that I, like so many others, might have to leave behind. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. But to have long engaged heart and soul and mind and gained nothing is a much harder dictum and truth to carry. So this is the truth that I hold up today, the only one that I can. For 45 years ago, when I thought I ought to be a New Jersey state legislator, the Bergen Record in northeastern Jersey endorsed me. In doing so, they kindly defined and referred to me as both a maverick and an unabashed liberal. I take a measure of joy in that the only change is that I have morphed today into an even fiercer, unabashed liberal. We must change ourselves, change our communities, change our country, and change our world. It is a monumental task that billions must buy into. And when we each determine to do our bit and enter the fray, arm yourselves with these manifest truths. In his great era Poetica, John Milton long ago proclaimed, "In a free and open encounter, who ever saw truth put to the test? Truth ever outs." And then, as Martin Luther King constantly asserted, Love always, in a free and open encounter, conquers hate. Armed then with truth and love, you will never be defeated. Rise up, rise up. I fully expect us to do so on November 3rd. Take our country back. That way, I will see the bright light of the sun dawn in my America once again. Fight the good fight this final month and vote. Have a great week. Keep hope alive and smile on your brothers and sisters. Hope and pray you'll be with me again. Take care, my friends.